If you think back to the data I've tried before, it stated 19.69% of red-line to labels are women. If an artist needs to be signed to be nominated, that means 1 woman for every 5 men who receive bricks each year. So moving on to Glastonbury 2023, they have announced the majority of the lineup, including the 3 headliners. So the lineup so far, and as you can see, at the top 3 headlining slots will go on the stage to Arctic Monkeys, Guns N' Roses, and Elton John. Lizzo is also up there on the top. She will be opening for Guns N' Roses on the stage. So when Emily Evers was also questioned about the decision to not make Lizzo a headliner in this lineup in the same Guardian interview, she said that she could totally headline, many of the artists could, but the headline slot had already been promised to someone else. We also bear in mind the fact that Guns N' Roses was put in place to replace a previously unnamed female headliner that dropped out due to conflicting touring schedules. And then Guns N' Roses replaced this headliner, and Lizzo was put in place as support because there was no one to slot for her. So looking at this overall lineup that's currently being released, of the 54 names up there, 52% of those are men. And when you look back to 2013, the Glastonbury lineup that year had 21.8% women on there. Ditto Music have predicted that the final release lineup could have up to 52.5% of the women featured on there. And think back to Emily Evers' statement, which I mentioned earlier, that the gender gap in Glastonbury Festival is top of their agenda, including more women in the lineup. So, what is actually controlling the decision? What's making it so hard to put more women on there? So, I have 3 initiatives to talk through that are all working to reduce the gender gap in the music industry. Firstly, Women in Control. It's a non-profit music development organisation that brings attention to disparities across minorities. They do this through programmes, community workshops, mentoring, training, and events. And this is for creators and professionals in the music industry alike. Moving the Needle is a collective of music industry professional leaders with a mutual goal of inspiring and encouraging the next generation of women to pursue their careers in the music industry. They do this through education, mentoring, skills training, resources, and holistic support. So, through their own research, they found that 46% of music performance graduates are female. And this statistic, therefore, does not carry through to the other stuff I've shown you, but suggests that there is a distinctive lack of women in the music industry. So, what happens between education and starting a career? Key Change is fighting for a sustainable music industry by supporting talented, underrepresented artists and encouraging organisations to take a pledge. So their manifesto comprises 4 key elements. Firstly, acknowledgement. They do this by addressing recruitment, remuneration, career and sexual harassment policies. By investment, they provide more funds through programmes for underrepresented artists and industry professionals to kickstart their career. Through research, by analysing and reporting on the current gender gap and by providing an economic impact study into companies with increased gender balance. And through education, by creating a new norm by promoting role models and opportunities for the music industry. So far, 600 organisations have signed this pledge, and 101 of them are in England. Some that you might recognise are Model Distraction and Baltic Social, both of which are based in Liverpool, and QTRs in London. Key Change also has 2 key ambassadors based in England. The first one of those is Dermot O'Leary, and the second one is Emily Evers. So now, giving you a little bit of background into this specific area of the industry and the ways that supposedly trying to be improved, I'm going to talk you through the pipeline that controls the musician's career. So, starting with education, if you think back to that data I just provided you, that 46% of music performance graduates are in fact female, according to Moving the Needle. If you go back even further, in 2019, UK Music found that 55% of GCSE music students were female, and 48% of A-level music students were also female. On to recording and publishing. as I've already mentioned, there are 4 men for every 1 woman signed to a recording label in the UK, and 6 men for every 1 woman signed to a publishing label in the UK. And then with distribution, there are lots of different issues amongst distribution. There's like a whole separate topic, but a big one is streaming service algorithms. These are vital for pushing new and unheard music to listeners and for promoting someone's career. This is like an entire separate thing on its own. So if you come back in a few hours again, we'll be doing a talk on bias in streaming service algorithms. On to live. Without the right opportunities in the live industry, there is a limit on possible exposure and fan base that musicians can receive. And very similarly with management, without the right management and the right processes taken to support someone's career, there is only so many opportunities that they come across. And kind of coming out of that area and going into like the fan base, that part of the industry, the size and quality of a fan base has a massive impact on the opportunities that a musician might receive, due to like the monetization benefits that a fan base can provide. And then of course we get to award shows, high-scale festivals, and those kind of like big profile events, which are generally impacted by every single step along the way. Looking at some external factors that have the potential to push more women into the industry, we have finance. Finance is vital for a lot of opportunities in the music industry to become available. And similarly, this will provide more opportunities for women. And when looking at the initiatives I showed you, and many more out there, a lot of them are, like I said, creating funds for underrepresented groups in order to give them a quick start. The media has the potential to control entire masses of people's opinions and to change the narrative of a lot of causes. So if you don't have the media on your side, then it's very unlikely that you're going to bring in the right level of people. And the initiatives, like I've already mentioned, there are so many initiatives out there, and they really need support and push and publicity to help spread the word and to educate the industry. And then of course we have demand. So as long as companies are profit-based, demand will always be a huge factor in decision making, and much of the industry is profit-based. I'm now going to talk you through top 10 singles at the end of 2022, and then I'll do the albums as well. So those that we have: Harry Styles, Ed Sheeran, Fireboy, DML and Ed Sheeran, Cat Burns, Ed Sheeran again, Kate Bush, Lost Animals, Lost Frequencies, LF Systems, and Sam Fender. Of these 10 up here, only 3 of them were 2022 releases, and of those 3, only 1 of them was a woman. Across the entire 10, only 2 women appear. Then on to the albums, we have Harry Styles again, Ed Sheeran, Taylor Swift, The Weeknd, Olivia Rodrigo, and then Elton John, Fleetwood Mac, Little Mix, and ABBA. And once again, of these 10, only 2 of the 2022 releases being Harry Styles and Taylor Swift. So, incremental decision making, also known as political decision making, was developed by Charles Lindblom, and is characterized by using previous activities, programs, and policies to make decisions, and incrementally increasing, decreasing, or modifying past initiatives. So a small number of consequences and outcomes are predicted at each stage of development, and this minimizes the cost of decision making. Differences between status quo and solution is small, and therefore avoids conflict. This generally means that the easiest and safest option is chosen over the best possible option, and applies to continuous development. This therefore applies quite well to festivals, award shows, and those kind of events that happen on an annual basis, because each event is redeveloped each year. Small decisions are made each year, which therefore generally results in very slow change. This can be seen through a 13.7% increase in female representation on the Glastonbury lineup that took 10 years to achieve. So, To conclude, box ticking, is it working? People in higher decision-making positions need to use their platforms to make larger steps, and change is happening, promises being made very, very slowly. The blame can't lie, however, with people just like Emily Beavers and people in other higher decision-making positions in these festivals and award shows. It's a systematic issue that should pursue the entire music industry. So what can be done? More support and awareness is needed of these initiatives, like I already mentioned, because they're providing a lot of valuable information and education to the industry. Responsibility also needs to be taken by every single business and organisation in the industry. They can do this by hiring and signing and promoting more women, and reevaluating their personal core values and ensuring they're actually acting upon them. From the data I presented and the extensive amounts of data out there that I haven't even touched on, there are clearly plenty of talented women out there who are ready to enter the industry and to do some really great things. It's not a lack of women, it's a lack of opportunities. Box ticking can be done in these areas, like putting more women in lineups for award shows, to kind of start the process and to make change. However, it's not a sustainable way to really change the music industry for good. I have a quote here from Hannah Calhert when she was in conversation with Believe. She is a cultural insights analyst and content editor at Media Research. And she said, if you're female, LGBT, or in an ethnic minority group, you may not have the same opportunities to get the credentials that a white dude has. You've still been able to recently get into a position where you're asking for that job and feel like you can do it. Maybe the route is broader than what you perceive to be a valid credential. So there are members of minority groups out there who have achieved amazing things without those same opportunities. So you can only imagine what they could achieve if they were given those opportunities. And I'm going to leave you with a quote here from Andrea Gleason, who is the Chief Revenue Officer at TuneCore, also in conversation with Believe. She said that there were two things that really stuck out. One is that women don't want to be treated differently. They want to have the same access to resources and opportunities that men have. Thank you.
That way, ready.
That was amazing, that was great. So I actually have two questions. So just about the Glastonbury Festival lineup, so it's gone from 28% approved, and I think you said, to 52%. So we have seen quite a lot of changes, and this year it's kind of a split down the middle in terms of men and women. So do you think it's more of a headliner issue?
Yeah, I think a lot of it is to do with the headliners, because I feel like they're like the forefront of the festival. That's what people are really seeing on like the TV and everything when they're broadcasting it to BBC. And I think it feels almost like by putting more women elsewhere, they're just kind of trying to make us happy. Where really they need to be providing those headline slots to people. I mean, Guns N' Roses is fine, but they haven't released new music in years. So why are they getting the slot over Lizzo?
Okay, I'm going to build on that with my next question. Because I was going to say, should we be celebrating artists by their gender instead of their music and relevance to a festival? So for Elton John, this is his last, it's supposed to be his last show. And Guns N' Roses, they're kind of on the last legs anyway, so it's probably going to be theirs. So, and arguably, they are a lot bigger than Lizzo, so would you say that they maybe do deserve a spot over Lizzo?
I mean, what you said about talking about gender over their musical ability, I think that is a fair point. I think it's more to do with, at the moment, that those changes aren't being made. Like, we need to see some bigger changes to actually get the ball rolling. And I think there are a lot of people out there that definitely, a lot of women in the music industry that definitely want to be seen as a musician, a professional, and not just for their gender. But without those kind of big changes, it's getting a lot easier for other organisations to do the exact same thing and to just say, well, we don't want to focus on their gender, we want to focus on musical ability. So yes, I think having Elton John on that is great decision. His last ever concert, I believe. But I don't know, it's hard, it's hard to kind of come to a proper conclusion on whether or not women, like, certain women need to have those slots, but when you think about the fact that a woman had already dropped out of that slot that they replaced with Guns N' Roses, and they decided to just replace it with, not with another woman, it felt a little bit lazy. I don't know if that's it.
Hi, great presentation. So you didn't mention about that, but that's a thought that came to mind. I just wanted to ask you, do you think how a publishing company looks at women, the industry is connected how they present it in media, in a way how they sexualize and their media is making a lot of controversy around the women? From what your research done, do you think that's connected or is it just a gender gap that we need to change?
I think in some ways it is connected to the gender gap because a lot of the times when these like decisions are being made to sexualize women, like female musicians, they're generally being made by men or with men in mind. And I think even by hiring more women, by putting them in the decision-making positions, it will become less of an issue of female musicians being sexualized a lot. So yeah, there are definitely places for women in the music industry that don't have to involve sexualization. And I think we just need to see a lot more of that.
Thank you.
Any more questions? Good. We need to give us busy. Guys, please welcome Charlotte.
Hello everyone, thank you for giving me this time today to talk about my contemporary issue in management. I'm going to be discussing the TikTokification of live music and more specifically the impact of going viral. If you've got any questions, make a note of them and I'll try and go through it at the end. So the main themes that arose throughout my research that I'm going to try and cover today are going viral, consumer behaviour, freedom of speech, performance quality, financial profitability, and then ending on manager considerations. So I'm sure you're familiar with the term viral, but the official definition is a piece of content such as a video being widely shared and becoming extremely popular. In this section, we're going to have a look at some of the advantages and disadvantages of going viral for an artist and a manager. So, upon first thoughts, it was surprising that there is as many disadvantages as there is advantages to going viral. Looking firstly at the advantages, we have a greater demand for an artist. I'm sure if any of you are TikTok users, you will have seen recent tours blowing up, and you might have considered getting tickets to these events when they come to town near you. This is possibly because of FOMO, which is the fear of missing out, due to the excitement surrounding the shows on social media. Record streams is the next advantage. Business Insider provided the research with the statistic that 67% of TikTok users are more likely to listen to a song on a streaming platform after hearing it in a TikTok video. Viral videos also reach a larger audience than the band or artist would typically reach on other platforms, allowing the artist to expand their audience, which can ultimately result in more ticket sales to an event or a tour. Another advantage is that an artist is more likely to gain a larger following on social media, which is obviously a positive when it comes to promoting upcoming events. TikTok is a great promotional tool for musicians as they are able to post a video and it be put in front of millions of people immediately, which is something that was never previously accessible for free. So looking at the disadvantages, these are the areas I'll kind of touch on in more depth in the rest of the presentation. So having no control over what goes viral. As I'll explore in some examples later on, it's not always the music from a live performance that goes viral. Instead, it could be what an artist is saying, their actions on the stage, or anything controversial that is probably better not shared. There is also an immense amount of pressure for an artist, knowing they are not only performing to the people in the room with them, but also to thousands of people online. Arguably, a disadvantage of going viral from a fan's perspective is that tickets are becoming more inaccessible for fans, as there are more people attempting to purchase tickets and therefore more traffic on ticketing websites. Artistic integrity is something that was mentioned by singer Charlie XCX, amongst other artists, and now being told to produce music that fits a certain standard designed to go viral. I've also mentioned here the idea of tour spoilers. A lot of hardcore fans will try and prevent looking at anything ahead of the show they are going to, so they can get the full experience when they attend. This is becoming increasingly more difficult when events are being shared globally on social media. Consumer behaviour. Consumer behaviour surrounding the idea of going viral on TikTok has changed very quickly in the last few years, where a concert is no longer just going to see a band or an artist perform a few songs, but it's a whole event. I've broken down a few commonalities that I found within the research, which were recording the viral parts of songs, phones in the air rather than living in the moment, sharing content on social media, including mistakes, and having an I was there mentality. So when looking at the idea of sharing mistakes online, Ed Sheeran said in a recent documentary on Disney+, this is why the no phones thing is good and don't become a meme on TikTok. This was following the singer getting upset talking about the recent passing of his close friend Jamal. The singer was performing at an exclusive gig where the audience were required to put their phones away for the whole performance. This allowed Ed to be more aware and more honest with his emotions and not worry about things getting published on social media. Another theme I discovered, the I was there mentality, comes down to the audience feeling like they need to get content to share online, which could involve like dressing a certain way to fit in at a concert. A major example of this is fans of Harry Styles. The craze of feather boas and cowboy hats has become a massive trend over the past couple of years, but this isn't something that is accessible or even desirable for a lot of fans of the singer. This could lead to members of the audience feeling like they are less of a fan than the person next to them, because they are not dressing a certain way and therefore not getting the full experience. So on the last slide, I touched on recording the viral parts of songs and phones being in the air constantly. I'm now going to talk through a couple of recent examples I have seen on TikTok and a few of you might be familiar with if you are avid social media users. So the first example was on the 1975's At Their Very Best tour. Lead singer Matty Healy would have a voice effect on for their hit 2 Time. During this section of the show, a member of the audience threw a packet of menthol cigarettes on the stage, to which the singer responded, "Don't throw menthols on the stage, don't like menthols." Members of the audience posted it on social media and it immediately went viral. And the words "don't like menthols" have been searched over 11 million times on TikTok. People have even gone as far as ranking Matty Healy's auto-tune from the tour and sampling them into songs. For fans that attended future shows on this tour, phones would be in the air at this moment in the set, hoping to catch the next viral moment. Next was a recent trending song, "Ceilings" by Lizzie McAlpine. The sped-up version of the song has been used 742,000 times by TikTok users, and has influenced a lot of new fans of the artist to go and see her live. This is great for ticket sales and record streams. However, when it comes down to the live performance, a large portion of the audience didn't actually know the rest of the viral TikTok song. One fan posted on TikTok, "If you're going to a concert because of a viral TikTok song, at least sing the right lyrics." Comments under the same TikTok said, "The people in front of me recorded Doomsday and Ceilings and then left. It's so embarrassing." Whilst another commented, "This is who I lost out on getting tickets to." So my final example, which you will have seen in Lily's presentation yesterday, if anyone came to it, surrounds the song Bad Habit by Steve Lacy. This went viral on TikTok in October 2022. Over 650,000 videos have been made using the song, accumulating over 91 million views. A situation the same as Lisa McAlpine happened at Steve Lacy's show in Brisbane, where the singer stopped singing during the viral hit, letting the crowd continue without him, at which point the crowd sang the viral part of the song at the wrong time. The artist responded by saying, "Y'all sang the first verse twice." At another show of Lacey's, he tested out not singing again for the crowd to continue, and a lot of the crowd actually said nothing at all, as they didn't know the next section. Freedom of speech. Upon conducting primary research, I came across the theme of controlling an artist's speech during the performance, and whether it's socially and ethically correct for a manager to do so. When looking at the examples like Matty Healy that we've just discussed, it is arguable that the things an artist says in their live performance could be a contributing factor to drawing a crowd to an event. If this is something that can be controlled, it could result in a more rehearsed set with less room for error in comparison to a singer running unrehearsed lines. However, it can be argued that without the authenticity of an artist's speech on stage, the tour is less likely to reach viral audiences due to the repetitiveness, especially for those attending multiple shows or following along at home on social media. There is also the consideration that managers should have control on what an artist says on stage, as it's in their fiduciary duty to act in the best interest of the artist to avoid conflicts of interest. Rehearsed and planned out lines to say between songs could reduce the opportunity for an artist to say things that could be taken out of context or be seen as controversial that are likely to be widespread on the internet, resulting in bad press, especially when a large proportion of the crowd are recording every moment of an event. The comments surrounding freedom of speech and consumer behaviour we've just discussed play a big part in performance quality. On this slide, I've just got a few disadvantages of going viral on the performance quality of an artist that I have noticed and a few people have mentioned to me when conducting my research. A lot of these revolved around the key theme of pressure. So starting off, we've got performing to a crowd that have all got phones up in the air could affect an artist's performance if they are focused on getting the set perfect. It is common knowledge that a lot of people crumble under pressure, and this is something that can be extended to musicians. The accessibility to sharing content at a high speed doesn't give time for artists or managers to perhaps address mistakes before they've been shared with the world. Perfectionism could also have an effect on an artist's mental health if they maybe miss a cue or say the wrong thing at the wrong time and are self-loathing because of this, when in reality, most of the crowd probably won't even notice. Expectations is something that's become such a strong contributing factor to live events, especially if aspects of an event or song have gone viral. As discussed earlier, a lot of the crowd at concerts would come from one viral hit, and examples like Steve Lacy's Bad Habit provided evidence that this new TikTok audience don't necessarily learn the rest of the songs or an artist's catalogue. There have been times where I myself have heard a track on social media, and when going onto a streaming app to listen to more of the artist's work, it is completely different. The idea of expectations at live events are so demanding that it could potentially lead to confusion or disappointment. This leads me on to the crowd reactions. If a crowd is singing one song at the top of their lungs, giving loads of energy, having a great time, and then during the next they're aimlessly looking around, not knowing the lyrics, or looking seemingly uninterested, the artist may pick up on this and not want to give 100% themselves. This is because it's extremely difficult to maintain high energy or enthusiasm yourself when you are not getting any in return. Picture it like a one-sided conversation. You only have so much to give if for not getting anything back. Financial profitability. It can definitely be argued that when it comes down to the money side of things, does it actually matter who is attending live events if they're still purchasing a ticket? And my answer to this is yes, it does matter. As many of you working in this industry will know, an artist's income is not solely reliant on ticket sales. In fact, this is just a small factor of how musicians make a living wage. Firstly, I'm going to start off with something that is on a very fine line between being a positive and a negative of going viral, and that is record sales. While streaming obviously does bring income to an artist, it is not as valuable as selling a record, whether this is a physical CD or a digital download. There is also a possibility that TikTok users may not actually be listening to or using an official audio, and instead are using something uploaded to the platform unofficially. As a result of this, all of the streams are going elsewhere, despite receiving hundreds of thousands of views online. We've also got merchandise. If any of you attended Ben's presentation yesterday, you'll know that merchandise is a large source of a musician's income and can be the defining factor for whether they can afford to carry on as a musician. Consumers might only be interested in the viral tracks and not interested in the artists themselves or buying their merchandise. As mentioned earlier, it is becoming increasingly more difficult for genuine fans to get tickets to shows when there is such an online demand for tickets. So with fewer genuine fans at events, the band is less likely to sell t-shirts and records. So along the same line of missing out on tickets due to high demand, these new audiences are also less likely to purchase VIP packages at events due to not actually being interested in anything other than the music they have heard on their view page. Many VIP packages come as an upsell and require a GA ticket to the event. So without the availability of GA tickets, the fans can't purchase the upsells and miss out on personal opportunities with their favourite artists. So to summarise the findings from this research, I've laid out a few considerations for a manager that I'd like to explore further and encourage you all to think about if you are managing an artist or plan to do so in the future. So, are artists under additional pressures to maintain a certain level of social media exposure if something goes viral? I believe that TikTok is not a sustainable platform, and you could be getting thousands of views one week and not the next, so you can't rely on going viral. Are there any mental health implications for an artist that come with going viral? Again, I believe this all comes down to pressure and maybe comparing yourself to others, which is obviously going to happen in any industry, but with the additional pressure of going viral, it could be detrimental to an artist's mental health. Should something be put in place to ensure fans get tickets over listeners? I'm not sure if there could maybe be a verification system put in place, if kind of a larger proportion of ticket allocations went to artist pre-sales that go out to that artist mailing list. But I do believe that there should be something that allows more tickets to go to fans rather than outsiders that are maybe hopping on a trend. Is there a concern that the crowd might not stay for the whole show if the viral track is played earlier on in the set list? So this was apparent in the Lizzie McAlpine study earlier, where a lot of fans left after the two tracks had gone viral. Should artists purposely try to go viral, or could it feel forced? So I personally believe that going viral is completely by chance and can't be planned. So how can you force something that is completely out of your control? And finally, is there a way to control what is allowed to be shared on social media surrounding it all? Perhaps looking at copyright or censorship, whether only official audios can be uploaded to TikTok that are put there by the artist management, and they get control of all of the streams coming from that. So obviously a few of these have been covered already in the research, but I'd love to hear your opinions on them, and whether you believe going viral is just a trend, or if it's something that can be considered in all aspects of being or managing an artist in 2023.
Mr. Charlotte, no, this is Jeff.
Well done, Charlotte. That was really good. I just wanted to know your opinion on whether you think that we should encourage a no-phone policy in gigs, or whether there's a difference maybe for arenas and small shows.
Yeah, so I have been at gigs myself where upon entrance you get given sort of like a wallet to put your phone in that's locked. And there is, obviously, when you bring phones to an event, it's not just to get photos and videos and whatever, it is like a safety reason as well. So with these wallets, like if you take them up to a member of security or a member of bar staff, they're actually able to unlock them so you can use your phone, you know, for other reasons. But I do agree that there should be something in place. Like when an official photographer goes to an event, they're allowed to photograph the first 3 songs. I feel like maybe something similar to that could be put in place. However, when you're talking, you know, thousands of people in an arena or a stadium, how are you going to control that? So I do think there should be more opportunity for, you know, maybe having more lockdown shows. Yeah, it's something that would require a lot of planning.
Thank you. Well done. So my question is, I know that you touched a bit before on merchandise and how some fans only, they're not really interested in buying the merchandise if they are just like a fan from TikTok. What do you think about where some artists are now doing things where they're releasing things specifically for those kind of fans? I know some artists are like releasing those like remixes, stuff like that, of like the same songs, which kind of sometimes annoys some fans if they they're like, well, have you heard the song, well, have you seen this? And the manager's kind of trying to cater to that audience as well.
I think obviously it is personal preference. If you're a fan of an artist, you don't have to listen to all of their work to be classified as a fan. And it might be that, you know, this new music that's coming from the artist that is kind of directed at TikTok fans, whether, like you said, with the remixes and stuff, but whether in terms of merchandise, if maybe there could be some merchandise, you know, that is designed for that specific song with maybe a lyric on, or, you know, it doesn't have to be like a t-shirt with a picture of the band on, because a lot of people don't care about that. They want something more subtle or that they can personally relate to. Yeah, I think it is really hard to control because, like you say, bringing in this TikTok audience, it does create a divide. And it's whether, you know, you should stick to making things that your current genuine fan base enjoy, or whether you are trying to, you know, widen your audience and, you know, go down this next path. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Hi, so I was wondering, did you thought about any idea on solution in the concerts? So how to define who's actual fan or who is just on TikTok? Did you come up with an idea that you think could work as the future?
Yeah, so like I mentioned at the end, the main thing for me would be if more tickets did get allocated to, you know, like an artist pre-sale. So it tends to be the case where when a show's going ahead, maybe 10% will go to the artist and that will go to their fans before the rest of the world can get access. So maybe if the artist got 50% and then that goes out to all of their fans, if they don't sell them all, then the rest of that percentage goes out to, you know, the rest of the world to buy tickets. I think that would kind of show an increase in fans at an event rather than outsiders that, you know, maybe know a couple of songs off TikTok. Yeah, that's it really, just more tickets going out to the right people.
Yeah, because if someone is more football interested can write me. I think like football clubs work like this, that you have like a club card or something
Yeah.
that you can purchase tickets before. So
Yeah.
do you think that's able to work in the music industry?
Yeah, I definitely think it's able to work. Because but people that aren't interested in the artist and are only interested in these songs, they're not going to be part of these fan clubs. So yeah, I think that's probably the best way to go around it.
Thank you very much.
Hi Charlotte, I really enjoyed that. It was very, very interesting. I just wanted to ask you something about what social media offers artists in terms of like transparency. So if an artist was to use social media to maybe interact with their fans and fans gain more of an idea of what their character is like when they're not performing, but equally on the other side, if there's more surveillance with social media, let's say, and fans can maybe discover something about an artist that's less than favourable, and they may have the right to know that as people are investing in it. I just wanted to know what your thoughts on the transparency they offer as well.
Yeah, so I do think, especially TikTok is very transparent because there isn't really any filters you have to go through before kind of uploading a video. And as I mentioned, like things can go viral so quickly, like it can happen, you know, in a matter of hours. So maybe before a management has jumped on and seen like, wait, why has he posted that? And now, you know, 100,000 people have seen it. So I think kind of from the authenticity side, I think it's really good because, like say, you know, you can get to know an artist more than just on a music level. And I think it is entirely up to the artist, you know, how honest they do want to be online and whether their kind of whole career is them as a person or just their music and whether they want to make that connection. Because I know a lot of people do tend to keep their personal life and their career separate. But I do think as a platform it works really well for them.
Yeah. It seems to be quite a common thing at the moment that artists are having their music and releases on hold by their labels. So labels are asking them to make TikToks and kind of live. Do you think that's a realistic request?
I don't think it's unrealistic. Obviously, you can't control what goes viral, so you can do, you know, all the promoting and publishing that you want. But it might be, you know, a random video that you post at 2 p.m. on Wednesday that's not planned, that suddenly blows up. Yeah, I think it does work in a promotional aspect, you know, to hold off releasing things until you have got, you know, a few fans behind that. But I think it also depends on kind of the scale that the artist is already at. Like if they're a big artist, they don't need to tease things. You know, people are going to jump on you straight away. But maybe for like a smaller artist, it will get that initial group that, you know, maybe tell their friends, they're like, oh, look, last year on TikTok, and then next week it's on Radio 1. So it's, yeah, I think it does work, and it's free marketing, so I don't think there's any harm in not using it.
Any last questions for Charlotte? Oh, go on.
So it's something that was really interesting. Bringing up the point of the 1975 and the whole that mental scale. Do you think, like, how might you approach that where you sort of use that viral bit to sort of push political messages? Like when he played in Liverpool, he was on about striking and making governments and stuff. Do you think that's something that other artists could do and use that point of virality to sort of push their views, especially someone like Matty who was always such like a controversial figure and people really hate him? Do you think that's something that could be utilised, or do you think that's sort of abusing that position of virality because he knows that people are going to report that bit no matter what?
No, I think it definitely is, you know, a good thing because, like you say, he was getting out sort of important messages, whether that was important to everyone or just to himself. So I think once you've got that platform and you know that, you know, from the Don't Like Medicals or whatever else he was saying on the tour, you know phones are going to be up in the air recording it. So why not sort of say kind of how you're feeling, especially if you feel like it can make a change. Yeah, I don't really think he was abusing it. Because a lot of the time it was just silly little things. It wasn't always, you know, big grand statements that are trying to change the world. It was, you know, don't throw cigarettes at me. So, but yeah, I think kind of having that comedic value to it as well, you know, it makes people more interested. And like say how people like ranking is auto-tuned, it means that they are listening to them and they are getting shared, you know, beyond the class yet.
Great presentation, by the way. So, did you say that earlier? How you like had put away your phone for a concert and kind of enjoyed that experience?
Yeah.
Do you find it hard, because I know there's a lot of other people who go to concerts and will actively throw their phones on stage for artists to pick up
Yeah.
and record themselves? Do you think the issue of artists who are all right with that and interact with people as much to take their own phones kind of goes against the whole nature of putting it away? And do you think like that certain artists will have like bad repercussions from that, or?
I think it definitely does depend on the artist. Like say for someone, you know, mainstream, like, I don't know, Beyonce, for example, if she told everyone to put their phones away, they would put their phones straight away because it's Beyonce. Beyonce's probably put my phone away. But you know, if it's someone, you know, playing like an academy-sized venue, and you know, they will take someone's phone and they'll take it be real for them. It really does depend on like the scale of the artist and kind of how much like security is accessible for that show. You know, like if it's like a massive stadium tour where you're requiring 80,000 people to put their phone away, it is obviously a lot harder to control. But yeah, it depends on the artist.
Yeah.
Very good. Brilliant. Thank you. Video and then short break. Okay. So this is Welcome Home, James, very intriguing title, and that's by Georgia, Reese, Spaulding, and Roman.
Hello, I'm James Miller. Welcome home to my room. I'm a musician. I'm a student in Liverpool, doing music and musical activity. Ever, what projects am I most proud of? And it's, to be fair, I have to say currently, the band, I'm very proud of what we're doing at the moment. I'm in a band called the Sweet Blues. I'm very proud when I tell people, I'm not shying away from it. It's something to be proud of. And I quite like it. So yeah, I'd say respectful and basically. My aspiration is to get fame, but then get to that level of fame where you'd be asked to go and strip and dancing. And that's the point for me. I don't care about that kind of celebrity. I want to do strip. Or Bake Off. Oh, I'd love to do Bake Off actually. Can you? I thought that was what it was, like Celebrity Bake Off. Well, I want to do Celebrity Bake Off. And then I do Strictly and Bake Off. Yeah, I think it's time. Things I'm excited for. We've just recorded some music, so that's going to be interesting to do that. But the new year, you know, setting yourself off and going, like, this is what I'm going to do. I like the whole resolution. Set yourself a target. But who cares if it's still resolutions for next year? Be more positive, try not to be scared of the future, because that freaks me. So, things in my room that reflect who I am and what I do. I guess we'll start with an obvious answer. Guitar. This is my main guitar anyway, and I guess this reflects kind of what I do. Probably something that reflects me quite well is the picture behind you, which is actually a bus station. I know it sounds a bit loud from my station, and it's I love brutalistic architecture, and it's very monstrous concrete, but it's also so that kind of reminds me of her. I guess Fugitive Monkey. Fugitive Monkey is I prefer Yorkshire tea, but I love or Twinings, but I just think it's an embodiment of English culture and what's the wine bottle haul? This kind of shelf is a whole representation of my taste in alcohol, I guess, or drinks. We've got a candle, which is from the distillery by my house, which is a gin, and we've got the wine and port, and then 2 decanters, which are very empty. The beret thing, so I've got 4 now. I need more, but it started as coming out of 2021 lockdown. We had a French night at home where I just made a bunch of French food, and then we all dressed up. Bearing, and we said, "This is how much fun." You gotta own it. You can't shine and wear a beret. I think because it has all those connotations to art and creativity. I thought, you know what, this is a hack for me. You always go on a journey with things, and I think when you start out, you start looking at like what your favourite artists were, what your favourite movie stars were, or what in a film or magazines or anything. For me, my style was from Italian, French, and then like traditional British menswear. I try and put it all in one, because I love like suits. I feel that's like kind of my uniform. I've always been one for dressing well or dressing smart for any occasion. And I think ever since starting uni, I've just doubled down on that and gone, it's lecture day, let's dress up nicely, or it's a Friday, let's dress up nicely, and now it's every day, let's dress up nicely. So I guess that's where that kind of came from. I just like how it's very light and clean. Your room has to be, in my head anyway, a good environment for you to do work, but for also to relax and to sleep. So I try to get all that in one. It's like, everything's clean, but I can work because I've got no distractions, because it's clean. But if I turn around, I do have a distraction, which is like music. But yeah, did that answer your question? Yeah. I hope that was all right. If you have any other questions or stuff, I was going to say, I am a Virgo. Get over it. Hello, I'm Dylan. Welcome home.
Okay, guys, so we're running slightly ahead of schedule, which means you get 1 minute to eat because they are up there to the left, out the corner, and left again. And then we'll be back seated by 11:30, please.
What if you do check what people on the screen are or you use other apps? Get YouTube Music Premium.
It wasn't easy. When I was young, it's not my problem. It's not my problem.
Take your videos offline and watch Chinese writing. Try YouTube Premium on us.
It wasn't easy, but I made it. When I was young, it's not my problem. It's not my
Hey guys, welcome back and welcome to our first speaker after break, which is Harrison.
Hi everyone, thanks for coming. So today I'm going to be talking about the rise of AI in music and how is artificial intelligence or AI transforming the music industry. So first, just a little definition of artificial intelligence or AI. So it's the capacity of computers or other machines to simulate or exhibit intelligent behaviour, and it's basically the field or study concerned with that. And pretty much in layman's terms, that means a computer or a machine trying to simulate a human mind and what a brain can do, pretty much. And artificial intelligence is a huge talking point in the music industry in 2023, not just the music industry, in everything really. But as the technology advances day by day, more concerns and worries are being raised about what's going to happen. But as well, there's a huge eagerness in anticipation of what this technology might be able to do and the opportunities that it might present to people. So first, I'd like to just ask everyone a question. I don't want any answer. I just want you to keep it in your mind whilst you watch this. So should industry professionals like us, what we're going to become, and people that are already in the industry, should they be worried about the rise of AI? And I'd just like to keep that in the back of your head throughout this presentation. So here's a contemporary example of a musician who's using AI pretty much to her advantage and trying to utilise it in a way that she can make money from it. So this is Grimes, and she's unveiled a software called Elf Tech, which is an AI software, and it invites the public to pretty much upload their own music, words, and music to go along with it, and that music will be regurgitated in Grimes' voice, which sounds really weird, but that's how it's being phrased. It's basically, what's interesting about this is the artists that Grimes are inviting to do this with, they can commercially release this music and they'll be invited to get half of the master recording royalties, which just provides a new way for musicians that are up and coming who want to use this technology. They can make money from it, but established artists like Grimes can also make money from her work pretty much and her intellectual property. But it might seem strange to some of you that an artist is willing to just have their intellectual property sacrificed this way. So I found it really weird as well. It doesn't seem like it's particularly a good thing. It's sort of surrendered to AI, but I want you to watch this video first and just sort of see what you think about it. I'm sorry that the video doesn't seem to be working. It did on the test ones. Sorry about that. It's a real shame. It's really good that, but it's basically this musician, and he's talking about he's got an AI software, and he takes Kanye West's voice, and he makes his own verse basically talking about the things that Kanye's sort of done wrong within the past like 2 months, or however long it's been, maybe 6 months, sort of condemning him, but it's in Kanye's own voice, so it's really strange. It's something that never exists from Kanye himself, obviously. This artist made it, it sounds exactly like Kanye. And effectively, with that in mind, do artists actually have any choice in surrendering their intellectual property now that this technology is so readily available? Because Kanye didn't give any sort of consent to this technology being used for it in this way, sorry. But because AI uses by learning on existing material and copyright works, it's just taken all of the videos that are out there of Kanye, whether it's him speaking or singing, and it's turned that this work that this artist has created into sounding exactly like him. So really, Grimes has come up with a way to sort of monetize that, whereas someone like Kanye hasn't, and he's just getting used, his work's getting used whether he likes it or not. So yeah, some issues and ramifications about this. So yeah, people can effectively make celebrities say whatever they want. If there's enough pre-existing material of musicians like Kanye, like Grimes, they can use this technology and they can make them say whatever they want, no matter how sort of harmful it may be. So Grimes has addressed this issue saying that they would only take down really sort of far uses of this technology, but such as a Nazi anthem or baby murder songs, which obviously neither of them sound very pleasant, but honestly, how possible is this? How possible is it for artists to take this approach? Because there's going to be so much of this out there of clips of artists saying whatever someone's wanted them to say. How can they possibly take all this down at once? There's so many videos on YouTube, so many ways for AI to access their music. I don't know if it is possible for artists to completely inhibit people from using AI in that way. And yeah, the use of AI has huge legal implications regarding copyright, especially because, like I said, AI learns by using pre-existing work. So it's taking other people's work, ingesting it. This is exactly what Universal Music Group have said. They've said it violates the rights of artists and other creators because these artists aren't giving any sort of consent at all to their work being used, and it's just solely happening whether they like it or not. So yeah, this is another example of another artist using AI in a way to sort of benefit them. So this is Chorus, an AI music project. It's been launched by Pixel Links, which is a company that now owns the DJ. And basically they're looking to revolutionise music. That's how they've said it. The way that music is created, rather, because they're hoping that it'll offer artists and creators the ability to play, create, and remix from a global network of artists and labels using officially licensed IP, which is obviously the really important bit about it, because like I said in the last slide, some people aren't getting their IP abused technically, whether they like it or not. But this gives artists a way to, sign their work up towards this software, and it can be officially licensed, and then they can protect their IP, find another way to monetize it, and they're just getting another way to earn money from their works with the new advance in this technology. Because it does really seem impossible to myself that they can protect the IP from AI learning completely. So yeah, this is Nick Cave here, and he's had sort of the total opposite opinion of what Grimes and Dead Mouse have had with it, and he really doesn't like the use of AI with music. So basically, someone sent Nick a set of generated lyrics by ChatGPT, which is basically an online software, a chatbot where you can give it prompts. So this person's obviously typed in write me a verse in the style of Nick Cave, and it's come back and give them exactly that. And he was a little bit annoyed, to say the least. So he said that he wants AI, and ChatGPT in particular to fuck off and leave songwriting alone. And he finds it really insulting to say that the artistic act is so mundane that it can be replicated by a machine. This is because Cave believes that songwriting comes from something that's intrinsically human, and it comes from, you know, sort of the pain and experiences that we go through, and that that's something that only we can do, and that machine shouldn't be able to replicate that. And he said there's no earthly reason why we need to invent technology that can mimic this most beautiful and mysterious creative act. But is that strictly true? Because AI provides a fantastic opportunity to disable people and providing greater accessibility in music in general. So there's been many technologies that have existed throughout the years to, you know, help disable people in various different ways, but AI is looking to basically revolutionise that and make it even better. So, yeah, there's a technology called Legalize, which allows people who are paralysed and non-verbal, and all they can move is their eyes, to use electrodes that are connected to their head, and they can independently use a computer, which is obviously what's amazing, giving these people this independence. But the problem with this is, because obviously every person's needs are individual, it can take a lot of adjustments and a lot of time to fine-tune it for each individual person. But the thing that AI will be able to do is speed up this process completely and effectively eliminate it, because AI obviously learns from the inputs that it's being received. So if someone is using these electrodes, the AI can pick up straight away sort of what independent things they need to make the experience better for them. And I mean, this could just completely change the way, especially for disabled people, how they sort of make music. Like if they can independently use a software like Logic or like GarageBand or something by using a computer, it could be game changing. And I think that it raises a very interesting point about discrimination and inclusivity. Because it's said by Mosby, ultimately technology is not the panacea, I believe it is. Good ideas are the basis of good art, and technology doesn't make good art by itself. Nick Cave was saying that this should completely stay away from art, stay away from songwriting, but there may be plenty of artists out there that have these life-changing disabilities that feel as though they can't make any of the art that they want to, but this might provide a way for them to do it. And I think that's really important. And yet TikTok, ByteDance, the owners of TikTok, their sort of parent company, they're looking to make an app as well, which just provides greater accessibility to music in just in general. So for people who may not have the time to sort of produce music or learn the skill fully as you might have to now, they're looking to start this app that will significantly lower the music creation barrier and inspire musical creativity and expression, further enhancing the music content. So like TikTok's just completely lowered the barrier for video production. I mean, everyone knows how to make a TikTok these days. You've got kids who are extremely young doing it, and it's sort of inspiring them to create more. It's looking like this might be able to do the same thing for music, which, again, I think if people can express themselves in this way, it makes for a really, really good thing, and it actually might just inspire the next generation of artists to come along and start on an app like this, and then move on to something bigger later down the line. So yeah, AI's roots in music. I really wouldn't be surprised if, you know, a lot of you came here and sort of expected that AI sort of walked on to the scene in the past few years. Because I know that I did. I was like extremely sort of naive, just thinking, well, it's walked on. Everyone's talking about it. It's only just arrived. But yeah, you might be surprised it goes all the way back to Alan Turing, obviously a huge historical figure. And he created the first computer-generated piece of music, which hopefully this will work like video did. But yeah, he created the first ever computer-generated piece of music, and there was also one called Iliad Suite. This wasn't created by Shorty, but it was a back-inspired piece of music. It was basically a computer-generated sort of sheet music, piece of music that was developed, and then obviously human musicians walked in and produced this piece of music in the studio. And then, Brian Eno, obviously a huge musician and producer, acclaimed, and he's always been someone who's sort of experimented and tried to push music further. He's been experimenting with generative music for decades, like since the 70s. And is this really that different from AI? Personally, I wouldn't argue so. It's sort of, this is the sort of grandfather of the AI that we're seeing today. And it's sort of a culmination of just the technology reaching this sort of boiling point in all the advancements that it's gained. And we're now just seeing sort of what it can really do. I will try and play this voice clip for you. I'm hoping it does work. No, it's not. I'm really unsure about what's happened with the technical things today, so I'm really sorry about it. We're really good, but that's like to try and explain it again quickly. It's really eerie, and it's really creepy because that isn't performed by musicians. It's all done by a computer, and it is an existing piece of music, but it's really strange. And if you can watch it outside of this all, I would recommend you to because it's really interesting. The same with the Kanye video as well. Sorry, and then the Chat GPT boss, Sam Altman, the CEO of Chat GPT, is actually basically warning people about the dangers that AI can hold, which is obviously really strange because he's one of the sort of leading men for it and the people who've really championed this technology. But he's been very much at the forefront of also just warning people what it could actually do. He said that we're at a revolutionary point. He's called on US lawmakers, stating the dangers of AI, saying that if this technology goes wrong, it can go quite wrong, which is honestly quite a frightening thing, I think, personally. Saying that one of the people who's championing all this technology is sort of really worried about it himself and calling for some sort of legislation. But basically what he wants is an agency, a government agency, to come in, legislate new AI companies so they'll know what sort of thing that they're trying to do, what sort of content they're trying to produce. But people are already worried, can an agency, even though it doesn't exist yet, could an agency even keep up with the advancements that this technology is making? The AI video, the video of Kanye, the AI Kanye that I wish I could have shown you, that wasn't possible 2 years ago, but now it is, and it's becoming more and more prominent. I'm sure you've all seen it on like TikTok and YouTube and stuff. There's videos of like Yesterday being performed by George Harrison in quotes AI. There's just so much content already on this. How can legislators possibly keep up with it? And the same issues being raised by, again, Universal Music Group in regards to protecting their artists' IP. Because AI experts have basically said it's really, really difficult, if not impossible, to stop AI from learning on pre-existing materials because you can flag your site not to be searched, it says, but that's a request. You can't actually prevent it. You can just request that someone not does it, which sounds good, but how many people are really going to listen to that? If someone said, again, using Kanye, for example, he didn't want his works to be used, there's some people might follow that, but there's also a massive population that wouldn't follow that because they'd be intrigued by it and they just want to see what it'd be like. So it's really raising an issue of just, is this sort of going too far, and can we sort of put a cap on it before it all sort of overflows already, before we've even really got that started in it. My closing remarks with this anyway. Personally, I think that AI, the cat's out of the bag with the technology, whether you like it or not, we're going to have to live with this. It's going to be a huge part of our lives and our careers moving forward. And I think as managers, the most important thing we can do is actively champion this technology and be vigilant towards it, because if we're not, it's our industry that it's going to affect. And if we refuse to sort of move along with the times, we could very easily get left behind. And I think it's important to just know that this technology is going to be here and that there is a way for it to exist where artists can use it to their benefit, but hopefully it won't, collapse the industry like a lot of people worry about. Like when streaming arrived, people were worried about it, and the people who became extremely successful were the people who championed it. It's just another step forward in technology, and I think we are just all going to have to live with it. There are huge positives that AI could provide, like I've said, with providing accessibility to music, if it's sort of with disabled people or just in general. It's providing great opportunities to people like that. But there are also huge negatives that could exist as well, because if AI continues to learn off people's existing copyright, the lines between what's created by an artist and what's created by a machine are going to be increasingly blurred. It's already quite hard to tell. Again, the Kanye video really showed that it was hard to tell. But yeah, it will become increasingly blurred. It's only going to improve this technology. But I think legislation is extremely important, and that is something that needs to come in, because if these companies aren't sort of told what they can and can't do, if there aren't some basis of rules what AI can follow, I think that's when we're going to really have a problem, because we can't stop it from learning now. It's out there, people are using it constantly. There's so many technologies that exist today that I think we do need to be careful. And finally, like I asked you earlier, I just want to know, I'll ask you the same question again. So should industry professionals be worried about the rise of AI? I just want you to tell me if you sort of change your opinion on this, would you mind raising your hand? Yeah, that's really interesting, because it did me when I was doing it as well. I've sort of flip-flopped loads, whether it's AI is the worst thing in the world or is the best thing in the world. And thank you for listening, everyone. Any questions?
Lots of hands. Let's start in front and work backwards. Good old Mexican way.
I don't think so.
It is. Yeah, it is. It is now. I mean, it took a second for AI to push it.
Yeah, that was really good. I really like that reference about how people get access to news. But I want to ask you, what opportunities did AI open up for managers?
For managers, well, it's going to, for admin and stuff like that especially, it's going to completely change the way that works, because there's already examples of people sort of having automated spreadsheets and stuff that learn. So I think finances and stuff like that are going to change completely, because you'll be able to sort of input to an AI sort of the areas that you go in a budget level that you would be working on. Potentially, this is an example in touring, maybe. You'd be able to tell an AI sort of where areas you're going at, what sort of venues you play in. It'd be able to pick up, sort of what sort of income level you might be working with a band or whatever, and then it could just provide you a whole tour plan, a whole budget. And I think that's one of the opportunities that it provides. But I think at the same stroke of the brush, that is an opportunity, because it'll definitely make a manager's life easier, but it could also kick a few people out of jobs and stuff. You never know how far it might actually go. Could a tour manager one day just be an AI machine?
Yeah, that was really interesting. Thank you so much. My question was about the reputation of people in the music industry with like AI generated images. Because there was like Taylor Swift was seen in a car with Matagiri, but she wasn't, it was an AI generated image. So I know you talk about the recording of music, but what do you think about like the lives of music industry professionals with AI?
Yeah, I think it's really sort of dangerous, to be honest. The same as what it is with the AI can now make artists say anything. Yeah, like I say, there's people are making pictures and stuff which could make fake stories, and I suppose it just leans more towards that whole sort of like celebrity culture and celebrity drama. I mean, I tried to think what the papers might be like in like 10 years when they're trying to dissect if a picture is real or if it's AI generated. It could really just sort of put a lot of people off celebrity culture. And I mean, we already see artists a lot now talk about how they don't particularly like how much they're in the limelight. But if they're not even in the limelight, but they're getting faked to being somewhere or doing something, I think it'd be really tough for them. I wouldn't want to be in that situation.
Sorry. What do you think about AI from a artist point of view? So from songwriting point of view.
Yeah, well, obviously that Nick Cave set of lyrics. I did actually read them, and it is quite bang on, to be honest. And I think that's quite a dangerous thing again, because it's a good. I mean, obviously, a lot of artists take influence from other artists anyway. But if you can say, if you get in your head as a songwriter, oh, I love this song by the Doors, write me a song in the style of Jim Morrison, and it can just give you something back like that. I think it provides a great opportunity because it'll make songwriting easier, but then we're just going to get we're going to reach a stalemate where people are not going to bother writing their own songs that much, because I mean, how many people want to write a song like Lennon and McCartney out there? How many people could now go onto the internet and just go write me a song like Lennon and McCartney? In 5 years, it might be at the point where it's just as good as one that Lennon and McCartney wrote, and then they can just release it like that.
Down this way, yeah, we've got a couple more on the front.
Hi, so are you familiar with the term deepfake?
Yeah.
Yeah, and how do you see it as a threat in the music industry?
Yeah, I think it is. I think it is a threat because you never know. With the deep fakes, obviously there's various different kinds of them. Like up there, someone mentioned about the deep fakes with pictures and stuff. And there's the deep fakes with music, so the voices. I think it is a threat because in 10 years' time, there might be a song generated by AI that's in a style of a certain singer, and the general public might prefer that to the song that the actual artist has created. I think that creates a real danger for them artists, because they're now going to feel like it's basically having to keep up with a copycat of themselves, but unlike them as a human, this machine or this AI doesn't have to sleep, it doesn't have any other sort of issues or worries in its life. All it does is what it's told to do. So it's like keeping up with just an endless stream. I feel like artists are going to be really sort of worried if what could happen, because it might just burn them out really quickly.
Let's leave it at that. We want to change over our fans. We've been going there. Okay, guys, please give it up for Janelle, our final speaker of the morning.
Hi everyone, those who don't know me, my name is Januelle, and my presentation today will be going through music recommendation algorithms, addressing the biases, advantages, and gender disparities within the streaming platforms. We'll also be looking at what the managers do to tackle this. To give an overview of what we'll be addressing, we'll look at how does the algorithm work, what are the issues surrounding this, why does this matter, what is Spotify doing to combat this, and lastly, is there anything we can do as managers? So, onto the basics. Spotify's algorithms analyse every user's listening habits and makes comparisons and connections using historical listening behaviour. In order to accurately curate a user's taste profile, the platform requires a sufficient amount of data when recommending songs, and this includes adding tracks to playlists and repeating listeners. From an artist's perspective, when releasing a new track, they usually turn to Spotify for artists' pitching tool, which enables them to pitch their track onto Spotify's playlist curators. However, looking at some of the platform statistics, around 20% of tracks pitched through Spotify for artists are placed on at least one playlist, implying the low chances artists really have when securing a spot on playlists. In the grand scheme of things, Spotify boasted around 489 million monthly active users towards the end of 2022, making it the biggest streaming platform globally. And as well as this, a survey conducted by the Centre for Data Ethics and Innovation concluded that 57.8% strongly agreed they were concerned about bias in recommendation algorithms leading to music from certain genres being prioritised over others. So, how is the algorithm being perceived by musicians? Music journalist Ben Wilson stated that when compared to the industrial top 40 charts, Spotify appeared to have more even playing field, further explaining how it's rare for independent artists who can hardly listen to music. Alternatively, in the survey previously mentioned, the algorithm was described as somewhat battleground for smaller, unsigned artists. So, if you're an artist or user, you'll know how impactful Spotify is. When it comes to playlists, there are three main types: editorial, algorithmic, and listening playlists. First, we have the algorithmic playlist. These are targeted towards an audience who are almost certain to love an artist's music. Securing placement on an algorithmic playlist often leads to more engaged, loyal fans, as these are the people who are actively searching for their new music obsession. The editorial playlist is curated by the team at Spotify and often has the advantage of having a large amount of followers. However, they tend to be more passive listeners, as the conversion into active, long-term fans are often low. There are thousands of editorial playlists, and you can tell it's one of them by the Spotify logo in the top left corner. They're curated by genre, lifestyle, and culture specialists with diverse backgrounds. Many playlists have several editors in different locations to find music from all around the world. And they also personalize some editorial playlists to listeners' tastes. For example, a playlist of rock hits will contain songs the listener already likes and suggestions based on their taste and will look different to each user. And finally, listener playlists are curated by the users themselves. They have the power to influence Spotify's algorithms as the user adds data for Spotify to analyze. And here are some examples which hopefully don't expose my music tips. So looking at the Spotify algorithm itself, it can be defined as a system that uses machine learning to personalize the music listening experience for each user. For example, Spotify will analyze what time of day you listen to a track, songs you have on repeat, how you've interacted with the song in the past, and similarities to other artists you listen to, and so on and so forth. This next section will dive into how it works, how a user is being analysed, how can algorithmic playlists be so personalised, and what is the science behind it. We'll be looking at collaborative filtering as well as content filtering, the two main algorithms the platform uses to elevate the user experience. First up, we have collaborative filtering, which looks at a track and analyzes how users have interacted and listened to it. One way it does this is by assessing how tracks happen to be playlisted together very often. For example, if two users listen to largely the same set of songs, their tastes are probably similar. Spotify will then take this information and make recommendations of songs that the users may not listen to. Next is content filtering, which is powered by artificial intelligence or AI. The algorithm analyzes three main features when determining to recommend content. These are lyrical content and language, song features, and past listening habits. This works by gathering metadata such as the release date and record label, as well as analyzing raw audio. It then categorizes the track using metrics such as danceability and loudness to describe the sonic characteristics. And lastly, it will gather descriptions and adjectives that are used to describe the track from online articles and blogs and take those into account. The Discover Weekly playlist is a 30-track algorithmic playlist that is curated on the user's listening history. For example, let's say you've been playing a song by The Killers and a song by Bruce Springsteen a lot. Algorithms look at how those songs are played and ordered in other Spotify users' playlists. If it turns out that when people play those songs together in their playlists, there's another song sandwiched between them that someone has never heard before. That song will therefore show in your Discover Weekly playlist. So, what are some of the issues around this? Thomas Hodgson, a lecturer who studies algorithms and artificial intelligence in global context, stated that the danger in algorithms is that it can reinforce existing biases. For example, this could mean a catalogue has more male artists than female artists, and one of the dangers in machine learning is that as listeners start to engage with that catalogue, those biases become magnified. He then went on to explain how that created a feedback loop, meaning that the algorithm would learn these bad habits and further be used to influence new versions of the model. As well as this, taken from a survey conducted by the CTEI, 89.2% of creators agreed or strongly agreed that they are concerned that bias in recommendation algorithms could lead to certain artists or labels being prioritized over others. When researching further into this, I discovered that 70% of tracks featured on the New Music Friday playlist were from artists that were signed to major record labels, implying that artists that release music independently could be at a disadvantage due to not being signed. Another issue I encountered was the cold start problem. When it comes to new and unpopular songs, they cannot be recommended as there is no data to analyze. With that being said, a user on Spotify's forums asked the question, do I need a specific amount of followers or monthly listeners to get playlisted? And Spotify answered with none at all, explaining that the editors listen to a song and independently do their best to find the right home within their editorial playlists. However, independent artists are up against the hundreds of thousands of tracks uploaded daily, meaning they could get lost in the noise if there isn't an extensive plan or marketing plan around the release. Another bias algorithms can pose is cultural clashes. When it comes to analysing tracks, certain metrics used to analyse the audio could be culturally biased. In other parts of the world where musical systems and cultures are entirely different, they could be interpreted algorithmically under the Western tuning system. For example, a track coming from South Asia could be categorised inaccurately due to the algorithm being created in the Western world and not having the information to categorise them accurately. And lastly, the final issue I encountered was gender disparities. Taken from the report by the Department of Culture, Media and Sport in March 2023, it stated that regardless of user gender, music streaming platforms appear to predominantly recommend white male artists to users at a significant rate. However, when further researching into this, they stated that it is worth noting that this is partly due to factors such as the low share of music by female artists. implying that record labels could be accountable for their share of female artists breaking into the industry, as opposed to the algorithm pushing them through. From a manager's perspective, the accountability lies within us to actively work towards the gender balance among musicians from an independent teenager scale. Taking all of this into account, when looking from an artist's perspective, getting playlists can help their music get heard by fans new and old. It can introduce them to a world of musical possibilities in the thousands of playlists to land on. A quote from an article by iMusician stated that getting featured on an official curated playlist brings more exposure and more money. So, what is Spotify doing to combat these issues? When researching Spotify's main research areas, one area was algorithmic responsibility, which essentially combines machine learning research with social science through case studies and developing their own tools. The statement taken from Spotify explained that their focus is on delivering recommendations that are relevant, encourage diversity in listening, and more importantly, provide opportunities for artists and creators discovery. Their approach consists of research, product engagement, and collaboration with external partners. The first step in their approach involves researching the metrics and methods and combining this with project-focused case studies to build an understanding of these issues. Next, they will work with product teams to raise awareness of any changes that can address algorithm impacts. They do this by educating the challenges and opportunities so they can be acknowledged. And lastly, collaboration with external partners involves bringing in other researchers and practitioners in the field to further contextualize how algorithms are affecting the platform. As a result of their approaches, Spotify has made some improvements towards fairer algorithms. One being the implementation of additional safety mechanisms to avoid unintended biases from emerging. Reducing the data usage to what is necessary in order for a better user experience, and informed efforts to address dangerous, deceptive, and sensitive content. Amongst this, they stated 5 key lessons from implementing the algorithm impact assessments. 1, being as advancements in products continue, the work will forever be ongoing. 2, transparency within the company has improved due to the added organizational support. 3, they learned that coordination is essential to create a more holistic view of the platform and that product experiences depend on many algorithms working together. 4, working with researchers from disciplines such as social work, human-computer interaction, privacy, law, and policy is important when gaining a varied outlook on algorithms. And lastly, 5, actively investing in data research to track impact better is important, as well as sharing best practices with academia and the wider music industry as a whole. When researching into what managers can do, Christine Bauer, a professor who focuses on artificial intelligence, states that a deep understanding of the biases and inequalities needs to be developed, and further explain how understanding where biases come from can help take steps to eradicate these biases in the algorithms. Artist managers can help influence the algorithm by optimizing their artist Spotify profiles by updating the bio, making sure those are updated, and creating their own playlists of influences that fans can listen to. In doing so, this adds more data for Spotify to analyze. In terms of the future of Spotify, they recently released a beta version of their artificial intelligence DJ, which delivers a curated lineup of music alongside commentary around the tracks from artists. Here is a little clip that just explains the just.
Hey Max, what's going on? I'm X, and from this moment on, I'm gonna be your own personal AI DJ on Spotify. Let's go. Up next, I know you've been on a summer song kick lately, so I went back for some of your old summertime favorites. See if it warms you up. Next up, some of the music you had on a lot back in 2018.
You think of me. Walking out there.
All right, Max, let's get you out of your feels and switch up the vibe. You've been into dance music lately. I got this brand new release to get you moving. Introducing DJ, the best of Spotify, made just for you, one tap away. Powered by AI, delivered by me, your very own DJ.
So, similarly to how the Discover Weekly playlist works, the AI DJ will scan the latest releases in your like, and or alternatively take you back to a nostalgic playlist you have in the week. On to the key takeaways. Although research is well enhanced at Spotify and other organisations, there is still a lot of research to uncover. From the developer's point of view, a better understanding of music outside of Western music tuning is needed to take into account when curating these algorithms. And finally, with technology advancing, scalable methods to control the amount of human editorial input to machine learning needs to be controlled. Some further suggestions taken from the Economics of Music Streaming report stated that the government should commission research into the impact of streaming services algorithms on music consumption, and that music curators should be subject to a code of practice developed by the Advertising Standards Authority to ensure that decisions on a playlist creation are transparent and ethical. That brings me to the end of my presentation. Thank you for listening, and let me know if you have any questions.
That was great. What more can managers do to improve the algorithm?
I think in terms of adding more data or bringing more data to Spotify, managers can definitely influence artists to create playlists that their fans can listen to, and that therefore gives more data for Spotify to analyse, and it gives more suggestions that their fans can listen to as well if they have like an influence playlist, for example.
Hi, was just wanted to ask you about the DJ thing. Do you think it can impact the venues like nightclubs?
That's an interesting question. I think, off the top of my head, I think it's more of a personal thing, like at the moment, like, you know, you just like listen to music on your own and just think like, oh, it'd be nice to like have a bit of commentary over like songs and stuff, because like, I feel like you can sort of feed into your internal thoughts, which is very interesting because when you listen to music, it's sort of just like you exert your energy onto the music and you don't really get anything back other than just the track itself. But I think like having a DJ is more like a thing you have by yourself. Like I think in that clip, he was by himself as well, so I think that sort of like explains what the intention behind it is. But I think it definitely could like influence events in the future, which is something that could be interesting or could be not. I mean, it could be something like you add to like silent discourse, for example, where like you have like a bunch of people listening to tracks and stuff. But I think it could influence future events as well.
Any more questions? There you go.
Well done, Jen. Do you think, this is kind of a bit of a broad question, but there's this threat that having to have this knowledge kind of put to the side artists or managers that are kind of trying to create a career that isn't too reliant on technology?
Yeah, do you mean like, is there like an added pressure from all these things?
Or will we just see, will it become impossible to operate without heavily relying on the use of technology?
Yeah, I think like, for like presentation, for example, like, I think like when it comes to songwriting, AI can only do so much in terms of like having a creative idea, you know, like, I think it'll like influence it a lot and sort of like help it in a way, like, but I think at the end of the day, like, I don't think AI can fully, well, it's not at that point yet, but it can't fully create a song. Well, that's just my opinion anyways, but I think songs from AI sound somewhat like decent in terms of like the pop genre, but I think like when it comes to like musical technical like I don't know, skills and stuff, I think it will still struggle to sort of get that like feel that you hear when you like listen to it online and stuff. But yeah, I think it would aid it and maybe take it a bit, but not for short term.
Great, yeah. Just want to ask about the DJ things. Found that really interesting. Do you think there's like any place for sort of radio and stuff going forward with that DJ thing? Because surely like everyone could just have a 24-hour sort of like station that's, you know, like advertised and they could like adverts in it and stuff that are all tailored to you. Is there any sort of like point for different stations and stuff anymore?
Yeah, well, I know like Spotify have their own like song radios that you can sort of create off one track. Like when you go to a track and you just click the 3 dots and it goes like play the song radio. I think that would be interesting to sort of see like a mix of the two, like bringing in ads and stuff. But then also I don't know whether like ads will be like implemented into it, just because like when it comes to Spotify, you have like the free version which is full of ads, and then you do have like the premium version with no ads. So I don't know whether like it would implement that in the future, but I think that would definitely be interesting to say, like combining the two together.
Really good presentation. Off of the DJ thing again, did you find that it may be a little worrying for like the data collected and the privacy concerns of the DJ thing? I know it's only music in the sense of like, you know, you signed up for a Spotify account and they're already sort of collecting that data. But have you thought more into like what that might be like as they release more and more technology that like is a little more invasive?
Yeah, I think like similarly to how Facebook and like TikTok where like sometimes you'll be like saying something and then it will literally come from the page. It's sort of like that when like that was sort of like kind of be really scary. But in terms of like music as well and like the DJ saying like, hello, I know you spoke about this before. But like I think that would be kind of like scary, but also in a sense I don't know whether we'd make it like as personal as that, just because of like the way that people interact with music. I think at first we'd have to see in the short term of like how users are interacting with it first to further like see whether there's a gap in terms of should we make this more personalized or not. But I think the way it is now, I think it's like fine, but I think like maybe in the future it could be more the way like, you know, like your free page works, for example, and stuff, but we'll have to see. So
Yeah, I agree. Thank you.
Cool.
We've got time for one more if anybody wants to ask any burning question. There we go. Keep it on your toes.
Hello, Jen. My question is about the Spotify playlists that aren't created by Spotify, they're created by AI, but not official ones that can be copyrighted to artists.
Sorry, can I get that last bit?
So I want to know your opinion on it.
Oh, okay. Do you mean like algorithmic playlists?
Yeah, ones that aren't created by Spotify but can come by download artists through algorithms that are Spotify.
Yeah, I think like it could be damaging in the sense that some artists might not want to be like associated with some artists in terms of like what we've done. But I think like in terms of it could be damaging in the sense that like the artist didn't sign up to be like associated with that artist and stuff. But, yeah, I don't know if it could be seen in like a positive way in terms of like, say for example, you go to see a tour, you see other artists that you like and create. That's sort of like the algorithm players like created from that. But yeah, I think it definitely has its negatives and positives.
Okay, everybody, so it comes the end to another fascinating CIM morning, rather. We're also doing the afternoon. I don't know about you, but we tend to maybe go away with more questions than answers, more than anything else. I think I know everything and then I go away and I know not a lot. That's all right. Okay, so what do we have today? Let's have a recap. Some of the things I observed from it. Is it the gender equality? Your program, our program, historically been mainly female. 2/3 to a third, sometimes even more so. Which is interesting. Yeah, it's interesting because there's clearly an appetite for a female to work within the creative industries. Within that, within the music industry, there are certain niches where there's been research about it, particularly in the area of tour management. It's been established, or the theory is that artists prefer to work with female tour managers, both male and female artists, than male. And I'm not really sure why. So there are issues there, and I'm not even sure what that means, but there's certainly an appetite for it that we all need to work hard at making it happen. Charlotte and TikTok, opportunity or threat? I think it's clearly both, isn't it? There's no doubt about that. It's currently huge and undeniable, and again, a bit like yesterday we talked about majors and indies. The artists really have a choice about it. The label can see something that is powerful and as a result and it's free or maybe cheap to do, then they're not going to not do it. So maybe artists don't have a choice about it. I think certainly established artists have more of a choice because they've got more power. But I suppose us as managers, what can we do? Is maybe just explain the opportunities, the threats, the implications. And we're not the parents to the point if they have a choice, it is up to them. And that's really our job as managers, to advise them. We can't control all those actions. Harrison, the second installment of AI, this year's CIM hot topic. I think the bit that stood out for me about the last presentation was 50-50 splits with master recording rights with software companies. I can see the lawyers having a really good time with that in the coming years. Maybe to watch this space site and a hot topic for CIM 2024 through 2025. But in terms of making songs, let's face it, it might be good AI, but they don't chat and day. That's people who are a certain age in the audience, but we shouldn't know that very often. And then we have from a writing perspective. Finally, General, I swear I practiced your name hundreds of times before this and still got it wrong. I've got this mental block with it from Johnny Coleman. Yeah, I don't know, just every time I go to say it, I just get it wrong. Anyway, I got it right eventually. I do apologize for that. Algorithm playlists. For me, it's just another thing that manager needs to be an expert at. Maybe we can get AI to do it for us. Okay, well, it's new and it's soon it'll be normal. And that's where it goes to the next thing comes on, which won't be that long, probably way before we do our next series. Anyway, guys, thanks for coming. Thanks most of all to the speakers this morning, and please be back here at 5 to 2 for the next exciting installment. Remember, it's a marathon, not a sprint.